Once upon a time I started drawing, and like most of us, I wasn't really good at it. Everything looked blurry, I shaded it with black, and pretty much had no idea what I was doing. A little over a year later, and this is how my drawings look now. So, what changed? I think everyone who is somewhat invested into art has at least once watched an art tutorial on YouTube. Whether it's on coloring or shading, it doesn't really matter. And you soak up all this information like a sponge ready to make your next artwork, just so in the end you realize that it still sucks. And I think art is like a relationship. Just because you know something doesn't mean you understand it. And I'm not talking about women. To give you a perfect example, everybody always talks about how important communication is and how it's the key to a good relationship. Yet knowing that communication helps and actually understanding how to communicate are two entirely different things. And even though this concept is so blatantly obvious, I still struggled a lot with it. Very recently, 3 days ago to be exact, I had a revelation when I made this Levi fan art. At first, when I created the sketch and started shading the whole thing, it looked like this, and something felt really off. It didn't feel aesthetic to look at, much more chaotic, and I already was thinking how this is just another artwork that I failed to make look beautiful. Instead of straight up trashing it though, I decided to switch up the composition and ended up with this. All of a sudden, everything cleared up, not just on the canvas, but also inside my head. So I asked myself the question, what makes great art great? And instead of looking at it as a tutorial, you should see it more as a thought process that I just wanted to share with everyone and maybe help 1 or 2 people with their art journey. Starting with the first and most important point in my opinion, the composition. My friend gave me the perfect analogy. In film, you can have the best camera, the best equipment and crew, but if the composition, the shot that you're making is off, the whole thing falls apart. Just like in my drawing. I thought the colors were decent and the values correct for the light source being in the back. But because I wasn't able to channel the whole thing to a single point, all these aspects were lost and had to be discovered by the viewer. And to come back to my introduction, I did know how important composition was. But the change of heart with the composition happened unconsciously. I was trying things out, and once I got it, it hit me. I actively started searching for ways on how to make Levi, the character in my drawing, stand out the most. If you look at the ground, I tried to render it in a triangular form so the ends meet where Levi is standing. The swords, instead of just putting them on the ground, I decided to give depth. How the f do you pronounce that? Depth. Going from bigger to smaller and kind of drifting around Levi in a half circle, elevating him. So to summarize what happened, when I had the idea, the swords had the sole purpose of portraying the fallen soldiers and comrades of Levi. I never thought of using them as a tool to enhance the composition of my drawing until I was actively thinking about it. So I think what helps, especially if you're creating a bigger drawing filled with objects and people, instead of following a bunch of rules like the rule of thirds for example, I think what helps is to ask yourself a question. And that question is, where's the focus point and is it where I want it to be? You can use so many things to help you with that. When you're designing a character, for instance, design it not to just look a certain way, but also to help it stand out. This drawing of Guvais, for example, he gave this girl bright yellow-orange glowing earrings, and that instantly draws us towards her. He also could have just given her plain earrings, but then it wouldn't have the same effect. You might use red in a drawing, mainly consisting of blue, to draw attention. Or hell, make it black and white, just like in the movie Schindler's List. Now before we talk about the significance of color, there's one more layer that we have to establish first. Values. Just to quickly explain what values are, it's a scale that goes from lightest to darkest, though that doesn't necessarily mean just black and white. Values play a significant role in making your character or object fit in the scenery you're drawing it in. If you have a window on the left side, but you're highlighting everything on the right side of your character, it doesn't really make sense. And now I could go on and talk about things like reflected light, ambient occlusion, but chances are you already heard of all of them. Because you have watched all the tutorials that I have watched, you're simply struggling with implementing all those. And the best solution I have for this problem is to use references. I made this Berserk fan art not too long ago, and as you can see, I shaded Guts as if Griffith, the character above, was the light source. If you look at his abs, his stomach, this is how I shaded it when I started out. As you can see, I had no idea what I was doing because I simply didn't know how to shade this segment of the drawing. And I remember watching a random video where I saw this panel of sunken rock, and I instantly thought this will fit my drawing perfectly since him and Guts have a very similar body type and the light comes from the top right. So I took the reference and simply applied it to my drawing. And so now after all that comes the interesting part, when you apply color. Another thing that seems to be obvious but never really hit me until I watched a video of Marco Bucci where he was explaining how different colors have different values. And that shit hit me like a truck. Jimmy. Huh? Come here. What's up? Jimmy, sit down. Why do you want me to sit down? Just show me. Jimmy, I said sit down. Okay, calm down, man. Alright, see? I sat down, okay? What do you want to show me now? Look, you see the color wheel? Mm-hmm. Now you watch how I put down the red, okay? Now watch how I turn the color wheel. Not the value, just the hue. Now because you're a bit stupid, you see this white circle? It stays the same. That means no lighter, no darker, just different color. Brother, I know that. Now watch me put down the blue. Mm-hmm. Now watch this. Now if I color pick these, look, they're the same value, right? Oh, mm-hmm. They're the same value, right? Mm-hmm. Jimmy, what the What do you mean, what the You just showed me they're the same value. Jimmy, it's cause I tricked you. Okay, who cares? Jimmy, if you're stupid, that means I'm stupid as well. Bro, what are you even talking about? Look, my friend, you have to put the whole thing in grayscale. Look, notice any difference? No. Jimmy, you Look, let me use the color picker, okay? Let me... Look. See this? Mm-hmm. See this? Indeed, they're different. Brother, only took you like 5 hours. Hey, man, chill. I appreciate the help. You can off now. Whatever. God damn it. Anyways, as you can see, it's getting pretty dark out here because it's winters and... Now coming back to what I was talking about before, understanding the different values of colors gives you a lot more playroom. If you want something to be exceptionally dark, I'd recommend you use a blue rather than an orange, speaking from an artistic point of view rather than a hyper-realistic one. And now that we covered values and the values of color, we can actually move on to color. Let's talk about my favorite art book of all time, made by the author of Tokyo Ghoul, Sui Ishida. I love his artistic approach to his drawings and how the colors are applied differently from how we see them in the world. You can use desaturated colors overall and use more saturated colors on the main subject. You don't have to use the orangish colors for your skin and have much more playroom with your creativity. Now after going through everything we discussed in this video, it's time for the last point. This point determines how you'll use anything we discussed in this video and what degree you will use it, or maybe just throw everything upside down. And this point, ladies and gentlemen, is style. And so right off the bat, the #1 tip I can give you if you are in search of your own style is to be true to yourself. I told my art journey many times on this channel, so I will just skip that, but what I do want to talk about is this year specifically. When I started doing digital art, I had no idea what I was doing. So just like 5 years ago when I started drawing with pencil and paper, I just took my pen and went ahead. What came out of it were a lot of realistic paintings, some experiments, and lastly back to anime and manga, just as I used to do it on paper. I didn't know what style direction to take. I was heavily influenced by impressionism and realism, and even thought that this is going to be the way. But whatever I did, I always found myself spiraling back to anime and manga. This is what I did as a child. This is what I did as a teenager and even made money from it. And this is what I'm going to continue doing. Truly ask yourself what it is that you want to do and look at what you like. I went to a museum in Amsterdam this year and looked at the paintings there. They were nice and I really liked some of them, but they were nothing compared to when I got the Tokyo Ghoul art book. I went through it more times than I can count, and whenever I saw a drawing on Twitter or the internet in general that was heavily influenced by anime or manga, I just looked at it and wanted to do something like that. Surround yourself with whatever you desire in life and what brings you happiness. Take inspiration from it and create something of your very own. With that being said, have some nice holidays, guys. Truly thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Wow!